Ugandans. How are you? Wherever you are. As always, Kaija is my name, the Deputy Secretary General of the FDC, an economic policy analyst. Economics is my thing. I want to greet you all. Today, I come yet again on an issue that has raised a lot of eyebrows from Ugandans around here, and those are abroad, because you pay a lot of bills to the people of Uganda. The issue that we think that must be addressed is the issue of electricity. Electricity bills have become a serious issue that you must know, because you might think, why is electricity, the price is so high all over the country? Many Ugandans cannot afford, businessmen are crying, restaurants are crying, homes are crying. Because remember, some of us, when we were kids, we used to have bulbs, electric bulbs, over 100 watts. But today they tell you, in order to save electricity, you have to use bulbs over as low, energy bulbs over as low as 8 watts. Of course, that should be the reason why even we are having side problem. Even see people cannot even put on security lights because they fear the prices of electricity. But where is the problem? I want to tell you, I want to take it back to Mr. Museveni and his group. Because of their corruption tendencies, they have led to the prices of electricity to go high, because of the way they've mismanaged the sector. I want to take you through the genesis of how the electricity sector has evolved over the years. You must be aware that Uganda has not had an energy policy since Mr. Museveni came to power. From 1986, 1982, Uganda only depended on ministerial policies, policy statements, whenever they wanted to say a thing about electricity. The first policy came in 2007, which was dealing with river dams, solar biomass, that talks about agriculture and forestry products, underground heat, geothermal, wind and bed, particularly decaying vegetation. That is what the policy was talking about. So for over about 20 years, there was no serious policy, what we call like an act that would go and refer to in as far as management of electricity is concerned. So the energy policy of 2002 and the renewable energy policy of 2007 are themselves lacking in how the sector should be managed. The energy sector was privatized, as you're aware, under the Electricity Act of 1999, when actually before we did not have a policy. So we found ourselves, I think they were planning to privatize and hand the sector of electricity to the foreigners. As you're aware that the Constitution of Uganda, Article 27(3), states that the state shall promote and implement energy policies that will ensure that the people's basic needs and those of the environmental preservation are met. So it is incumbent to government to have a policy that helps so that everybody has electricity at their home. The environment is catered for. But you see, even in the constitution that was written by Mr. Museveni through his henchmen, this was ignored. As you are aware that for the first 10 years, Mr. Museveni was the speaker, presiding presiding over this. I think that could be the basis. That's why even Kadaga was also spent 10 years, because second is spent 10, now it's about 10, but the presidency, we basically don't know. So the corruption in this sector is unprecedented. It shows the unpatriotic nature of Mr. Museveni and his intention to the people of Uganda. As you must be aware, and many of you may not be aware, Uganda has a vast renewable energy sources. The sun we are having can give us huge reserves of solar energy. I was talking to a colleague, Honorable Simba, who was having investors and wanted to put up an energy plan. Can you imagine they had even denied him a certificate, a feasibility certificate to allow him to do feasibility, until when, you know, making connection, when it was given to him. The wind we have I went to Netherlands and I was seeing these wind vanes making a lot of electricity. Geothermal from the underground. So there's basically been no evaluation about these various sources of electricity. But I can tell you that Kenya, by 2011, it had 280 megawatts of geothermal power. And they were estimating that by 2018, they would have 800 megawatts of geothermal electricity. So even the 2080 megawatts are bigger, are huge, are more than the 250 megawatts of the Bujagali, which was the Praise Bujagali Dam, which was estimated at producing 250 megawatts. So the first project of power project in Uganda was the Owen Falls Dam, now renamed Nalubale. This was between 1954 and 1968, with a capacity of 150 megawatts, costing $63 million US. So over the year, its capacity has reduced, hence producing about 60 megawatts of power. This led to the coming of the second power project, which was approved in 1985 to increase the capacity of the Owen Falls Dam from 150 megawatts to 180 megawatts. They aimed at transmission and distribution capacity and having capacity building for what was used, those who are old enough to remember the Uganda Electricity Board. And this project was to cost $73.4 million US. This was implemented in the first years of the NRM and was completed in 1996. But little has been written about its implementation, so our analysis of it becomes a little hard. So then comes the third power project. This third power project had three main objectives. One, to improve the safety of the Owen Falls Dam. As you're aware, the Owen Falls Dam had grown old, and they felt that it had come a little in such a way, there is a bridge over it, and it is felt that in the years to come, it would even collapse. So they aimed at expanding the power generation. Two, that was the second objective. Then by building another dam a kilometer, those who have been to Kaija Road must be aware, see another dam 1 kilometer away from the falls. For us, we were kids when the Owen Falls Dam was still a dam. There were even falls, which was a source of tourist attraction. We would always go but when you go to Google, it's even hard to find that photo. I think I saw one photo of the Owen Falls, there were falls that they had a dam, so you'd have power and also go and see the fort. It was a very beautiful place that has been killed by Mr. Museveni. So this dam was supposed to have a capacity of 102 megawatts, and later changed to 200 megawatts. And then, of course, they also included the improving the capacity building of UMEME capacity so that they can manage these vast projects. So this project was launched in 1991 at a cost of 300 million US dollars. But the appraisal report that stated that showed that there was critical risk of the project, that expansion of another dam, because of the low water levels. The engineers were saying, those that done a feasibility study, that one would lose the falls. So then, hence losing one of the sources of tourism revenue. Two, it will even affect the first dam, the one first dam, in the production of electricity. And even the new dam would never be able to produce the amount of electricity borrowed. Then Minister Engineer Hiro Onek said publicly that he had advised government against the project, but it was ignored. But those who are, for us who have gone ahead, why they had ignored, they had secured a loan before the project. So stopping the project meant paying back the money. And a lot of commission, as the men here eat a lot of money, they had picked a lot of money out of it. So if it had been stopped, that would mean it would be a disaster for them. So they would actually have to face the project to go on. The Gibbs Company, the one who had designed the dam in 1948, and a British aid agency, Kennedy and Dawkins, all advised against the project, citing low water levels, that the water levels that we are having at the Nile would not favor an expansion of the dam, of Owen Falls Dam to have another dam. Acres of Canada, which did the feasibility and engineering and construction, that was given the contract, did never bid, never go through competitive bidding. So it was actually handpicked. That tells you that there must have been underhand methods, ways of trying to make sure that they have a project, a company that would actually give them some kickbacks. So with that above warnings, the design and installation of the 4 turbines, each 34 megawatts, that would make 102, were installed, financed by the government of Norway. But due to water level, the low water level that I've been talking about, only 2 of the 3 were commissioned. And the third one was used as a transformer for the by a private thermal company in Kaija. Now tells you 64 million US dollars. If I use the words of Minister Kaija, it was blown, eaten. So only 2 could actually work. Seattle from China was also given with no money and capacity, was given a contract to do the civil work. Civil work is the construction. And this was eventually terminated because they were given a contract. Here these guys don't have money. So these are what we call briefcase companies. It was awarded a contract. Now it wanted now to use the contract to start using, mobilizing money and even the technical capabilities to be able to run the project. The rebidding process, now eventually they needed to do a rebidding to get another contractor. This one spent 4 years, and the delay led to an addition of 26 million US dollars. You guys, when you hear that money, that is money that is supposed to be paid by Ugandans, taxpayers. The project was based on a plan to increase the prices of electricity at a level that was unrealistic. Power was supposed to double in 1991 to a price of 4.8 cents US dollar cents per unit, and triple to US dollar 7.2 cents per unit by January 1993. And thereafter it was supposed to increase 5% per year from 1994 until the price would be 15 cents per unit. So between 1991 and 1993, consumer prices increased from 10 to 86 shillings per unit because of the fluctuation of the dollar. And the Museveni government signed these conditions. Because when you construct dams, we always want two things. One, have access to electricity. Two, reduce the prices, because there is a lot of supply. But now, government raise a contract in it with the conditions of keeping the periodic increase in the prices. No wonder during that period, people started stealing electricity, the camufus. You'd find an area and nobody's paying electricity. The bills were too high for anybody to manage. And that could, I think, explain the reason why they failed. They would bring Yaka, whereby it is a pay as you go. When you don't pay, you don't have electricity. As a result, by 1994, less than 25% of all the UMEME bills, the UEB bills, were being paid for. 75% of people who are consuming power were not paying, because at the time it was postpaid. Postpaid means you consume and pay. They even started cheating Ugandans, because there was a time when they would come and they would come and calculate the use taken. For us who see those bills, eventually they started estimating that possibly, so they wouldn't come and they estimate and tell you, we think this month you've consumed 20,000. Even when that month you didn't have power or you were away from your home. So between 1991 and 1997, unpaid bills accumulated to $6 million US dollars. That was 71 billion. So this led to the spent doom to UEB and provided justification for its winding up. They said no, it no longer makes profits. It's becoming an issue. It's actually government spending a lot of money on it. Let's privatize it, as the language was of the time was. But you see, I want to tell you, when they privatized and brought UMEME, we'll discuss a bit later, the people of Uganda were told UEB was making losses. But in the contract of UMEME, Uganda government was supposed to pay for the electricity that was not used. The reason why UEB was chased was because it was unable to collect this money. But now they bring another company. Now for it says, no, what I'll fail to collect you will pay. So what was the logic of bringing UMEME if these were the conditions of the new guys called UMEME? You'd have kept UEB, pay for the power that they were unable to consume, and then improve capacity building and have Ugandans run their sector. But now today, the sector of UMEME, they employed foreigners. They earn in dollars, huge amount of money, which they send back to their home. So, the increase in the price of power, which was about 8 times, government had to inject what we call capitalization, 40 million US dollars, which UMEME again, because UMEME could not pay its debts. So they thought having UMEME, it would actually be a better option than having UEB. Under the 1999 Electricity Act, UEB was divided into 3 companies. Uganda Electricity Generation Company to generate electricity, Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited to transmit electricity, and Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited to distribute power around the country. Now they brought ESCOM, a South African government company. South African government. Now government of Uganda says, no, we are going private. The government doesn't do business. But a government company from South Africa comes and is given lease of 20 years with a power purchasing agreement that compelled the Ugandan government, compared to them, that they would purchase all the power that was being generated. So if it is power that was generated was 100%, and Ugandans would consume 20%, the 80% was supposed to be paid for in that agreement. That agreement also has a clause that if that company feels they want to leave this country, Ugandan government compensates them. If we fire them, we compensate them. What kind of company? What kind of agreement? With all the same people who claim to be patriotic can sign such an agreement. So all the power purchase, ESCOM together with the UK company formed the UMEME. So we stopped hearing the word ESCOM, and then something called the UMEME appeared. So this third power project led to the following. Out of the 380 megawatts involved at On Falls Dam, that is 180, and that key extension 200 megawatts. The actual power that was actually produced was 100 megawatts. So the actual power was even less by the power produced by the On Falls Dam, 180. So the Kira Dam investment of 100 megawatts was a wastage, was throwing away money. If this country had people who love this country, this was reason enough to see off a government. But as I told you, we have a media that decided to do what we call self-censorship. This is information that never comes to you. And this is information that you must know. The prices of power became unaffordable, and the World Bank in 2008 classified the project as unsatisfactory. It is a peer award, but when the World Bank says we are not satisfied, tells you the details, tell you this is not a project that was worth it to invest money in. It led to the winding up of UEB, and the low power led to high power shortage, prompting contracting thermal power companies. The one that I thought, I don't want in Jinja, there was one on Jinja Road. So now these ones came in to help. So even if there is always a syndicate to have shoulder work, so that these guys in the government who are connected to some of these companies are able to make money. This caused further increase in prices, and hence government started subsidizing with an amount of amounting $100 million per year. But you see, this is thuggery, because about 25% of Ugandans consume power. So you are consuming 25%, but all the 100% Ugandans are paying that money. So it could be the reason as to why we are seeing the high poverty levels. We have seen Mr. Museveni trying to blame opposition MPs to have caused this problem. Then I take you to another project the BESIGYE project. This is a project that our grandchildren will pay for, and they will come and beat us on our graves for having allowed vampires, hyenas, to take charge of the goats. It is at the epitome of the NRM corruption and incompetence. The country will bleed because of this project for years. It was conceived in 1994 under the public-private partnership. In February 1996, NRM signed a contract with AES Nile Power Limited without competitive bidding, as I told you, at a cost of $450 million US. As usual, Museveni was at the center of this. The contract committed the Ugandan government to buy all the power produced at an agreed price, and the agreements, as always, were separate, like the oil deals. In December 1996, AES adjusted the contract sum that you see we didn't cost well, and put it at $530 million. International and local environmental organizations raised concern about the project, but the government did not listen in. The environmental cost was too high. It will lead to the destruction of the BESIGYE falls. Those who have gone to Jinja, you know, one of our tourist sites is BESIGYE. Destruction of the habitat, you know, the fish and the lake that were staying there. The impact on the fish industry would be affected. This dam would be affected by the Narubale dam because its lifespan, as I told you, has been expiring. They hired UK divers to go and assess the safety of the Narubale dam, what we call the on-force dam. As well as the report has been kept secret up to today. So it is believed that if the Narubale dam collapsed, the water released would wash away the BESIGYE dam to the river. So all that investment would be lost. Experts say that BESIGYE dam is a white elephant that increases the national debt, and produces little power. As you're aware, it is a 250 megawatt dam. The PPA private, the purchase agreement with AES was also kept separate. So it was very hard to see its impact on the economy. It must be known that the opposition MPs did not cause the delay, but it is how the things are done. In 2002, a bribery scandal broke out where AES Power officials were alleged to have corrupted some of the officials in the government. The US investigation was put in place. World Bank put a fraud and corruption unit also went into play to investigate the effect of the scandal. This led to the stalling of the construction of the construction work at the dam. So in June 2003, two construction firms on the project, Viedeki and Shaska, pulled out of the project, citing bribery and environmental constraints and controversies. And in August 2003, AES announced it was pulling out of the project, while writing off $75 million which they had invested in the project. The World Bank investigation unit found that the BESIGYE project had 5 operational policies of the bank that it had abused. In November 2002, High Court declared the PPA documents public. Prior's Energy Group found the project cost was inflated more than double. As I told you, we were hiding them. Now eventually, when we got access to them, it was found that the prices were more than double. So that means if the price would be like 10 million, they were made 30 million, and the 20 was eaten. The agreement would make Uganda people pay $20 to $40 million extra per year compared to similar projects in the world. A rebidding was done in 2005. Aga Khan Industrial Promotional Services, which was lagging, which was third in line. Cost in terms of technical capacity was awarded the contract. The project partners, IPS, Shift Global USA, and the government set up a company called BESIGYE Energy Limited to operate and run the project, which was abbreviated as BEL, to operate the project. IPS and BEL signed a power purchase agreement, an implementation agreement with the government, and is Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. The agreements were signed before Parliament approval. You know how Mr. Museveni and his team despise institutions. Before Parliament looked at the agreement, for them to sign it. So the project cost was about $860 million. The government advanced BEL, the BESIGYE Electricity Limited, $90 million to start the project, and inherited the $75 million that had been left by AES Nile Power, which withdrew. So the construction resumed in 2007 and was supposed to complete in 3 years. But the BESIGYE project was inaugurated on October 2012, 16 years after its contract. At the inauguration, Mr. Zil Juma, the chairman of BEL, reported that the total project cost was $902 million. An investigation by a parliamentary committee led by Honorable Jacob Both showed that the actual cost of the project, of the dam project, was $1.3 billion. Even at 902, it's the most expensive dam in the history of the world, or in the world. So the construction of hydro plant in Africa and other countries costs about $1 to $1.7 per megawatt. But the BESIGYE and the official cost declared means that a cost per megawatt is $3.6. The world is 1, ours is 3.6. If Parliament findings can also be trusted or the truth, that means the cost per megawatt of the Ugandan power at BESIGYE is $5.2. The one at international level is between $1 and 1.7. So ours is about 4 times the world power. So due to the low water levels, the dam was expected to produce 150 megawatts. It produced only 130 megawatts. About 120 money for 120 megawatts was money wasted. So the last project was the Karuma project, supposed to generate 600 megawatts, conceived in the mid-1990 and has been on drawing board since. Corruption reports started coming out even before when a Norwegian company was reported to have given 10,000 US dollars to government official. So in August 2010, bidding process started. 8 companies were shortlisted, but only 3, the 5 were eliminated. 2 Chinese and 1 from Iran. Again, bribery allegations came into play. It was alleged in the East African that the contracts committee received 1.2 million US dollars from Chinese. These guys have made money. Since in March 2013, the IGG recommended that the project be retendered. For a year, nothing has been done. So in the monitor of May, sort of April 2013, 15th date, Mr. Museveni was going to have said that his ministers we are asking for a bribe of 200 million US dollars from the contract. That means if a contract is 500, it becomes 700 million US dollars. And that is borrowed money, which we must all what? Which must all pay. So it's no wonder that the prices, that is money that we must all pay. 1 billion 300 million a what? Jakari Dam. Another dam in India, same size, 250 million US dollars, 250 megawatts, was constructed at a price of 250 million US dollars. That means that where our colleagues would have 4 dams, for us we're having 1. Who is eating the 3 dams? Can Mr. Museveni tell us he's ignorant of all these facts? When he just Googling, all these facts are there. So as you are paying bills, the Yaka prices, that is making, because like in welding they use power, doors becoming expensive, beds becoming expensive. It is because some of the people in this country managing the state affairs are eating this money. So the earlier we see off Mr. Museveni, the better. Because these projects, whenever you hear a conceived project, you must know that these vampires are taking about 80% of the money, and only 20% goes to perform this act. For us, we shall never tire to share information with you, because we know an informed society can always stand up and fight for what is just. I say this, one Uganda, one people, and for God and my country. Share the page, share the video, come and subscribe on Harold Kaija official YouTube account. We shall be using it to share information with you. Thank you. God bless you.